to this industry.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I rise to take another call on part one of this bill. Speaking to the Gambling Amendment Bill, I appreciate the Honourable Peter Dunn for taking a call and just clarifying a couple of things, but there probably leaves a little bit of untold story there, and I just really want to refer again back to our supplementary order paper from New Zealand First around section 6AA and section 6, which is about commission-based payments. And Mr Ian Lees-Galloway, along with the Greens, Labor, have sort of been talking more about the Gambling Amendment Bill number 2 and harm minimisation. This bill is not about strictly harm minimisation. This is about transparency and a clearer, easier way to fundamentally work out what and how we are going to be paying those venue operators. And the question was asked by Mr Ian Lees-Galloway around he cannot get his head or fathom why a higher turnover venue would justify a higher payment. Well, under the current scheme, it comes down to fair, reasonable and necessary costs to operate a licensed premises. And the difficulty that you've got to try and work out what your premises is entitled to comes down to the floor area of your gaming room compared to the floor area of your entire establishment, whether you've got carpet and what the wall coverings are, what sort of fittings you've got in your room, how many staff it takes, what are your turnover on your bar, what are your hours of operation, what are your power costs. So you can imagine the sort of conundrum that you've got to work out where you sit for a payment under the current scheme. What we are simply saying under a simple scheme, and let me give you some numbers so you can rattle those around in your brain. An average to high turnover...
Order.
Mr Chair?
Nothing's going to rattle in my brain.
Mr Chair, I do apologise. It's a bad habit. I will get out of it. Mr Ian Lees-Galloway's brain. To get that clear inside Mr Ian Lees-Galloway's brain is if you took an averagely high turnover of $9,000 a week of banking in a gaming site, which is over the average, but we're working on that. And if you looked at the current site payment of around about $150 per machine, that would work out somewhere around about $1,350. Of course, they fluctuate. The rents in Auckland can be astronomical and could be paying twice or three times as what they're paying, or even 5 times as what they're paying in Invercargill. So a site rental in Auckland might be getting $200 for a site machine and therefore generating more turnover because of the location, etc. and so forth. With every increase in turnover comes increase in foot traffic, becomes costs of staff. Now, staff costs are your largest unfixed variable cost in your business and hospitality. Your rent's fixed, your power's generally fixed, and a lot of those other associated costs are fixed. But the moment you have to increase your staff to cover a higher venue, you've got more wear and tear on the fixtures and the fittings in your premises, you could surely understand economically that you couldn't sit with the current regime. What we are suggesting, putting it under a commission-based system, allows for higher turnover, and you could hardly, at a turnover of $9,000 a week, turnover earning $150 a week is around $1,300 a week, hardly saying you're making a lot of money out of that. It's not even covering even a portion of your rent, let alone all the other running costs that go with it. What we're saying is to establish a fee that's based on turnover of gaming machines, on the gross turnover of those machines, actually ties in what the costs of running that site actually attributes and the ongoing costs of that. That's why we think that commission-based payments are better than not. We've gone through the Gambling Amendment Bill number 2, which talked about harm minimisation, and the Minister has said about other areas that is going to be picked up on. We too are concerned on issues of problem gamblers. They do make up 0.03% of the population. Now that as a percentage seems pretty small. I think there's around 20,000 problem gamblers, but that's not broken down into the types of problems that we're having, because there's problem gamblers that have got TAB problems, you've got casino problems, you've got poker machine problems. None of that's really captured in an overall breakdown of what is actually directly proportionally responsible to Class 4 gambling. And the biggest problem that we've got as this very fast world of gambling changes is the new onslaught of online gambling. And that is, that is the elephant in the room. That is something that needs to be addressed that we haven't even started to consider, and yet we are throwing a lot of stones and a lot of weight and a lot of anti-commission-based payments, which is just a simple and easy way to work out. for the venue operators, for the government to assist in those payments. Thank you, Mr Chair.
Jamie Lee Ross.